back to another episode of The Three Neighbors. So I'm Kevin.
Dave.
I'm Victor.
All right, so today we're actually getting into the holiday season. So one of those first holidays that we hitting on before the end of the year will be Halloween. So we're going to talk a little bit today about our experiences with Halloween and our viewpoints and what we see. And definitely curious to hear what you think about Halloween and how it's evolved over the years from maybe your childhood to where you are now as parents or as single parents or single people or people without kids. Do you still celebrate Halloween? Do you go out? What do you do? So, Dave,
And if you don't celebrate Halloween, why don't you?
Why don't you? Yeah.
So, I mean, growing up, we had a little side conversation earlier about this, but growing up, it was just, it was a social event. It really didn't mean anything. It was like maybe something that was what I call like a daily identity. You know, as I want to be Batman for the day or Spider-Man, or I want to dress up as this character. And that was it. And the goal was to get as much candy as you could. And then I think there's always been a threat of tainted candy and stuff like that. But I'm kind of curious to hear from you on, you know, what are some of the things you found in your bag? You know, I had like pocket Bibles, popcorn, fruit, you know, just stuff like that. That was kind of odd. But now today, I can't say I wouldn't go to a Halloween or costume party, but for me, like I don't open my doors.
You go
Halloween
blind.
night. I go completely dark. And I did it the first year here, and there was probably I made the mistake. Well, I didn't make the mistake, but by the time I bought candy, it was kind of out. So I was forced to get the full-size bars. So I got a few cases of those.
It didn't last.
And word gets around fast. And the next thing I know, I've got 30, 40, kids lined up at my door. And then I ran out of candy within probably an hour.
Yeah.
And just decided not to do it again.
So I understand.
I didn't want to go off on a tangent on that. But yeah, it's definitely it's one of those holidays, as you call it, that you can see it three ways. You know, you can embrace it as demonic and celebrate that. If that's the way you want to go, you can see it like I did growing up, and it's kind of like a social event. Or you can just eliminate yourself from it at all.
Very easy.
So I'm kind of curious to hear your
I think
feedback.
it's easy to kind of eliminate yourself, especially when you have little kids.
No. I mean, in Dave's situation, where his kids are grown, and I've kind of, in a way, my kids are older now.
Yeah.
You know, they don't participate in Halloween, but I do have a story about last year before last. So let me go to that real quick. So my 15-year-old daughter was passing out candy, as they were saying. This neighborhood generates a lot of kids. I mean, I've seen it grown over the years where it's easily, 60 to 100 kids that could pass your doors, and you run out of candy.
I would say more than that.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Well, a lot of times we have to shut it off because, we run out of candy. Well, my daughter was sitting in the driveway because I really don't like the kids coming up to the door. So her and a friend was sitting in the driveway, midway through the driveway, sitting on a couple of stools and passing out candy. And this gentleman walked up. I didn't think any big deal. He had his kids, but his kids had kind of left, and he was still standing there talking to my daughter. And I was looking out the window. I said, whoa, got to go out here and make my presence known. So that kind of stuff Halloween does generate some things sometimes. I'm not saying he had nefarious intentions, but however, I didn't care for how long he was spending it and asking her about, is she having a costume? Clearly she did not have a costume, but it was that, it's like, oh, your kids are gone. Why don't you go with your kids?
So he left, he allowed his kids?
Yeah. And I don't remember if there was another adult or older kid with his kids, but he was standing there with no kids.
But why would he go along with the kids?
So I'm saying he was standing there talking to my daughter while his kids were still gone.
Yeah, I mean, why would he have to go around with his kids? Or is that usually...
Well, you typically escort your kids as they go from door to door.
Okay.
But the expectation is you shouldn't be still there with my daughter and your kids are gone and
that's weird.
Your body language says something. I got to go see.
You bring up a good point, Vic. Maybe this goes back to maturity too, but at what point would you allow your girls to go out alone? Like I'm not going to allow my 10 or 11-year-old daughter to go trick or treating, as they call it, by themselves, but I may at 14.
But it depends on the neighborhood as well. If it's
That does.
a close neighborhood that you know that is relatively safe and everybody knows the neighborhood, and it's just the kids from that neighborhood going around, it's fun, right?
Sure.
And you know that they will be okay if it's a safe neighborhood. But if it's not, it becomes really tricky. You want to make sure that, you know, your kids are safe. It makes sense to walk around with them.
Well, I think our city ordinance is, I think it cuts off at 12 or 13. I can't remember.
Okay, yeah.
It's somewhere around there. I mean,
Yeah.
depending on how the kid looks, you can still get candy, but then sometimes
Yeah.
folks will challenge and say, how old are you? And they won't give them, you know, so it's around, by the time that 12, 13 year age, you kind of have to start to back out, especially if you're,
Yeah, but you know what's interesting though? I'm happy that we're talking about this thing because this whole thing about Halloween itself is about celebrating at least I think it's from when you're moving from spring to fall or something like that. And it's like a new season. That's why pumpkins are often used. But it's interesting how it's moved away from that celebration to something else. And that's what my concern is, right? Where it's more like kids having fun, going around. It's like Christmas Eve, and the kids also going around and asking for stuff. And it's kind of a change from that. That's what my concern is, you know. And I don't know why, whether it's because of the culture that we have today or just the fact that there's a lot of external influences that it's kind of shaping maybe the way that we see Halloween. Now it's no longer about that fun. It's like about weird, scary, demonic stuff that is just out there in the open. Anyway, let me backtrack. The whole Halloween thing, I think it's an American thing. Because outside of the U.S., I don't think it's celebrated. Except for recently, I know that before I came here, the last 2-3 years before I came to the U.S., I don't think we do celebrate it that much in Sydney, in Australia. It's not a thing that people kind of...
Did you see any of it there?
Not as bold and weird as it is here. Over there, it's not really something that it's kind of celebrated or talked about per se, you know. But I think it's different here because also it ties back to, that's a connection to, I think, Thanksgiving, and it's just you know, it becomes like a celebratory week or so for most people. Even in Africa, you know, people don't do Halloween there, right? So in Europe, I'm not sure, especially when I was in the Netherlands, I didn't see that at all. They have their own similar kind of events, like in the Netherlands, where I forgot what it's called. It's like a day where they do blackface, but it's kind of stopped now. So they do blackface where people paint their faces black. It became very controversial. You could imagine.
it's got frontal.
It became very controversial. And I think, not that it's completely stopped it, but once in a while you find people do that. But there's a cultural meaning to that. It's not necessarily like they're trying to do it to, I guess, mock, you know, people of color. But again, you know, because we live in a very politically sensitive period in human history. So I think that kind of died down, especially with criticism coming. So there are similar kind of events, you know, and it doesn't have to do with Halloween per se. But I feel like here in the U.S., it's marketed as such that this is a time to accept, the satanic whatever. Like and you see it on your TVs, and it's incredibly very distorted.
Well, there's a couple things I want to kind of speak about on that topic. There is, you have a lot of churches, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a lot of churches that embrace this, what they call trunk or treat, I believe it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a portion of that community that says, look, we don't want to isolate the children from that social event.
Yeah.
And then, so we're going to bring everybody to the church, and then everybody pops their trunks open. And again, it's still a social event.
But they do it in a safe, social way.
Absolutely. But it's not just the safe and social, but if you're trying to get away from that message, I don't know if that's the right way to do it and again, this is just my personal opinion, excluding children from that holiday. And I guess my question to you guys is, if your spiritual belief is we don't celebrate that, how do you bridge that gap and speak to the children?
Question. That's a good question. Which is why I'm asking you guys.
But I think you put some good. I mean, I think what you just brought up with the trunk or treat, you know, this harvest celebrations or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Like you said, specifically the churches, and you're absolutely correct. There's a lot of churches in this area that will do a trunk or treat or have an event on Halloween to bring the kids in. So it's another opportunity to celebrate Halloween or whatever you want to call it, the harvest or
Harvest, I think that's what
yeah,
folks-
whatever you want to call it.
Harvest,
But you, like you said, you don't have to totally stay away from October 31st and you know, a celebration.
You can call it harvest. You can call it whatever you want. Well, my
That's what
question
it's
is,
supposed to be, though.
and that's fair. But are the kids still dressing up for that?
Yeah, I think it's okay.
There's
Yeah.
some
I think
sense
they, I
of-
think
yeah,
they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of harvest because that's really what it is. You know, it's a changing season, and it's funny how I feel like it's really sad because I feel that I'm sorry, I'm going.
No,
that's in my
that's what-
conversation.
what
But I
we're
feel
doing.
like the enemy always want to copy the original in everything and replicate things that are nice and good. Like this was all about harvest. That's why you have the pumpkin. But it's interesting how Halloween has kind of overshadowed that concept of harvest, where it's no longer people. When you ask kids, "What's a pumpkin about?" Is it?
Right.
It's about celebrating a new season.
You say the same thing about Christmas.
Yeah, but then they've changed that now where when you think about how pumpkin, it's about the scary stuff. And it's like a way of making kids to want to accept scary, demonic, what they call it, rituals or costumes or whatever. You know, there's a house down there. And it was horrible, some of the things I saw. Like, I'm like, my goodness, that's incredible. Like, that someone would want to, like, put this in their house, except maybe either they're doing it out of ignorance or maybe they know what they're doing. You know, but it's like
I will agree.
I'll put in the
I will agree with you though. The
portal for whatever to you know, inhabit. Yes,
I will give it to you on that. The way folks decorate their houses now for Halloween, come on, they didn't do that 20 years ago.
like it's
I mean, there were some scary things, but I don't think. I mean, people decorate now like they decorate for Christmas.
Yeah.
In terms of all of the animation and the things that they put in their yards, the ornaments, and just that, 20 years ago, I don't think we really saw
the
that.
house there. They had like a eraser for it's a Mohammed or whatever. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah, and 20 years ago, those products weren't as
We weren't available.
available as they are.
You didn't see Halloween at Lowe's or Home Depot. Now they have a whole section like Christmas.
Did you see the house down the street? I'm not going to
Yeah,
name
yeah.
this little cut through where the skeleton's holding that lawnmower comes across.
I did see it.
You know, and it's like, maybe you can call it ignorant, you can call it festive, and I don't know. It really doesn't affect me at all. Honestly, I would use I'd use the adjective creative.
Creative, okay.
Because what they did was like, wow, that's pretty incredible. Whether you agree with it or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
But
It can be fun depending on how you do
can.
it. But the house after that, like if you look just way out next to your driving, just look it down. You know, it's like a whole different thing. Like something else is weird that's happening.
yeah.
I mean, and there's been reports of people, having, images of people being decapitated and just, like to your point, you don't really want your kid to, we didn't see that growing up.
Yeah,
we didn't go.
I mean, there was kind of what you call, spooky out.
Yeah, it was spooky, but it wasn't like
the black lights
Yeah.
and all that other stuff. But again, I don't think Halloween is all evil. I mean, you got
no,
you got people dressing up as their, as Transformers
Yeah.
and the old school Batman and stuff
Exactly.
like that.
Wonder Woman.
Cool.
And then
Yeah.
you do have those that dress up as, the brides, the brides with the blood and all that stuff. That's kind of, but I'm just kind of that person that says just live and let live.
Live and let live.
I wish it can all be all about harvest, and that's great, because that's what it should be about, and not about Halloween. I just feel like the whole Halloween thing has overshadowed what the meaning is, what that season is about.
So will you take your kids trick-or-treating this year?
Probably not.
Okay.
Thankfully, I'm still very young. Probably my boy, very smart. That he, for some reason, I don't know how he knew that this is that CP.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then every now and then he say, "Oh, Daddy, monster!" I'm like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Where are you seeing this?" Of course, from either I deleted his YouTube Kids because that's the only thing that pops up now. And even at that, we subscribe to a particular app. It's called ABC Mouse. And yet, in that app, everything was about Monster Math, Monster this. I'm like,
Oh wow.
come on. Like, it just, so irritating that I really don't know what to do. Are people really taking this too far, and what impact would that even have on kids?
Well, it's all about the algorithms too.
That's true,
And
yeah.
they are going to advertise to the masses.
Yeah.
Understand that Halloween is not just a social holiday, if you will, but it is commercialized,
much
just
so.
like Valentine's Day,
Yes.
It is, but at the
4th of July, Veterans Day, all this
Yeah.
stuff to make money.
The retailers put a lot of real estate in
But
selling the
beyond just
product.
that, consumerism, I think that's also a deep spiritual, demonic, satanic movement that money's been poured to that. It's a way of opening portals to people's houses and people's kids. Personally, maybe I might be crazy, but I think there's other agenda to this thing. But
I don't personally, I don't have a dog in the fight. You know, I love this country.
yeah.
And if this is one of the things that, you know, is controversial, then I'll take that all day long. We're living in a place that doesn't have Halloween, where you're ruled by.
Halloween, I don't know.
I mean, that's it. Look, let's face it. There's no
Halloween.
In my opinion, if there was no Halloween, you would never see another candy corn.
Oh.
You know,
And I like candy corns. I'm probably
right? And
probably in the minority.
that's going to be M&M, Mars, Hershey's. It's their biggest day.
It is.
Well, if it says so.
Oh yeah.
And the lobbyists would never get rid of it.
I think there are other things to celebrate than Halloween. Let's celebrate harvest, right? And make it all about that.
But I think you have an opportunity, kind of like when we talked about with like the trunk or treats, that you can kind of curate what type of how you celebrate October 31st.
Absolutely.
So you can, yeah. So you can steer clear of some things.
It's just for that moment, though. But outside of those moments, there are these other scary.
Well, yeah, like you said, the stuff coming through your tablet. Yeah, that's something we didn't have to deal with.
Yeah, and there's no way that your kids would escape those, even though you have some kind of socialized event, you know, to make it a bit more fun. But it's still right there.
That's more parenting, though.
Yeah.
Make you. I mean, you don't.
You're not gonna block everything.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this. Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, Kevin and I had a good conversation on one of the last episodes about, you know, over sheltering your kids. You know, guess what? When they turn 18 or somewhere around that area,
For that.
they're going to go out and they're getting fed. They're getting information.
Right.
They're drinking from a waterfall, and it's good for them to socially interact with others, whether it be church or school or sporting events or something like that, and then them coming back and then having that dialogue with you, and then that way you can mold them into the individual that you want them to say, hey, this is what they agree with, this is what we agree with, but to simply cut it off and not have that.
That is.
I get it.
That conversation.
My perspective is that it's not so much about having those conversations. Maybe by the time you have this conversation, it's already too late because they're initiated into something they don't even know, you know, or understand what it is. And then they start to act it out in the way they behave. And it goes beyond just the physical socializing, you know, which is okay. I don't have a problem with that. It's just other things that might happen. But again, maybe just me. Sometimes I overspecialize things.
Well, you're a relatively new father as well, and
that's also the other part.
and you're gonna find out as the years start to pass.
Yeah.
You're gonna start to kind of pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
Perhaps. But you know, the celebration on spooky things, I don't think it's. I don't know. I don't know what the utility is. Whether it's a way to help kids overcome fear, but it's no longer that, essentially. I feel like it's one of the things.
Outstanding. Well, tell us what you think.
Exactly.
We're looking to hear your feedback. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back.
Let's see how-
So, yeah, welcome back. So, when we took the break, we were talking about Halloween and harvest season and all that other good stuff. So, we're just going to expand upon that. I know we talked a little bit earlier about, the 10 Commandments and wording that differently, right? So, it was Louisiana's, what did you say? I forgot what we called it, but we wanted to stay away from the 10 Commandments because it was religion. We wanted to keep religion out of schools, this, that, and the other. So, again, I think you're correct. You can call it whatever you want, whether it's Halloween, whether it's harvest season. But I love the social
aspect.
Yeah, the social aspect and the involvement of community together. For that problem. I mean, we have a national night out where everybody's supposed to come out of their homes and meet each other and walk around and engage with law enforcement.
It's funny you say that because now I think back to some of those years where I actually handed out candy and I got to meet people that, that are in this neighborhood that I've never seen, or I've seen them from a distance and, walk past them, wave to them from, 100 feet away. But now I actually see these people, can speak to them. Hey, how you doing? Whatever. So it can be a good opportunity, like you said, to build community.
Yeah,
So,
I think that part, I like that.
Yeah.
If it's about that. But my hope issue with it is that it's no longer about that, unfortunately.
So how are you going to handle it when Victor Jr. comes home from his first day or from first grade and says, hey, Dad, we talked about this in school and Halloween's coming up and I want to dress up as fill in the blank and I'm going trick-or-treating. Thanks for taking me.
First, I think it would depend, again, on the school, which is why we're very careful about a school that we take ashore. Maybe not most likely to have to be a private school. Private Christian school if possible, where even though they might have something like that, it wouldn't go in that, scary, spooky kind of, angle. So within that confines, I think that's fine, But again, if it's all about the socializing, getting to know people, that's okay. And I think also it has to do with the kind of community where you live. If you live in an environment where everybody knows each other and, it's saying that it's fun, I don't see that as a problem.
But I think what he's trying to say, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I think you can create the Halloween for your kids that you want for them to have.
You can.
And you can, you can keep them from those demonic things.
You can. You can create that, but then the external things and influences is not something you can control. But I guess you could set the tone as to how, I guess, you control that. The other thing it's interesting because we're also talking about the malls and how they're kind of marketing this so aggressively.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, whether that consumerist angle it becomes another thing as well. And whether or not I feel like they're over marketed compared to other seasons. I might be wrong, but
I come from a different generation where you always want what you can't have.
Yeah.
Okay. So years ago, you had to go to the brick and mortar, and it's like you got to have your size. So I remember running to Walmart. We had some party stores and stuff like that where it's like, I need to get there before because I wanted this particular costume.
Yeah.
Right.
And now it's not like that.
No.
You go to, Walmart.com, Target,
Right.
Amazon, everything. So you can find, even on eBay, I mean, if you want something really bad now, you
is
can
it
find it.
Pamel? It's like Temu is like, Temu is like you can get anything you want there.
Yeah.
It's like $1.
Yeah, folks have gotten so creative now with the costumes that, the little mask with the rubber band on the back, you see those in the stores anymore. People are like creating and makeup and, you see some of these kids come out now. It's like, wow, who's the most creative? That's actually kind of fun. I'm not going to lie, watching some
Gotta
of these kids.
appreciate the innovation.
Yeah, you're like, what?
But thinking about creating something safe for kids in the neighborhood, I'm trying to bring it back to our context as the three neighbors. How can communities or neighborhoods kind of create something that is safe for kids without having some kind of external influences kind of make it what it's not, right? Is this something that has to do with the the homeowners in that area? Is that a conversation that has to start from there? Or is that a conversation communities, let's say, where the three of us are neighbors, we can start from there and talk to other parents and see, if we can control this. What would that?
But what are you trying to control on Halloween? I mean,
No, I mean how the kids, maybe the night where they have to go around, or maybe there's some kind of activity or events. How can you control what is curated? Also, even the kind of designs that people have in their houses. Should the homeowners association in a particular neighborhood kind of dictate that, or just have a conversation just so that it's safe?
You know me, less government. Nope, I don't
I
want.
was going to say you could go to those HOA meetings and propose those ideas, but
there should
I
be
guess
some kind of
that's
consensus though, because
Yeah.
what are you gonna do if you wake up in the morning and the next day your neighbor, the opposite neighbor has a costume all over the place that's so scary that you almost don't want to bring your kid
But
out.
that's happened, and that's when you hopefully can.
Just don't go there.
Yeah, or you ask your neighbor, hey,
Staring you right in the face, and your kids are coming out every morning.
You got to have that conversation with your kids at that point. I mean, we talked about Victor Jr. coming to you.
Yeah.
I think Kevin brings up a good point that if you're going to that private school, Christian oriented, and instead of going, no, we're not doing that, I think the question should be, okay, great. Like, what do you want to dress up as? Because that's how my mom sheltered me, not sheltered, but curated me, is like, yeah, what do you want to dress up as? Like, I want to be a mommy. Okay, so she cut up some sheets and all that stuff when we went out trick or treating. Now, if you're attending a Christian academy or school and they have the trunk or treat or something, outstanding. What do you want to dress up as? Well, Dad, I want to dress up as Batman. Okay, let's get you a Batman.
Yeah.
And then you take them to that location that where people agree with your ideals. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, nothing you like.
Be and
Yeah.
it's fun, but how do we control what?
But I don't think you can't have that expectation in the neighborhood. What he just mentioned. I mean, you have to be purposeful, and like you said, your Christian academies, your Christian schools, your perhaps a community center, but in a neighborhood.
What about with the media, and how do we control that from that space?
The media? What media?
Especially what, let's say,
Nobody watches regular media anymore.
maybe the
let's be
TV,
honest.
or even the channels, let's say Hulu or Netflix
Yeah.
or whatever. In fact, around that season, that's the only kind of stuff that they show, right? In fact, these days, I rarely watch anything in the evening because everything it's about spooky, scary stuff, because it's Halloween season. And it's like there's no end in sight to those things.
But I'll go back to what Dave said. I mean, like I said, you're a father of young kids. As your kids begin to get older and they ask you these questions, you have to be prepared because they're going to see things, experiences, whether they go to a private school, public school, or, the most private school that they're in a bubble. They're still going to be exposed to things, and how you deal with that and how you explain it and help them get through that is, that's going to determine what type of child that you have. Because trust me, they'll hit you with some stuff. You're like, where?
And they are smarter
Yes.
than you would ever give them credit for that.
And sometimes they're just checking to see, what do you know? What do you know? Are you going to be shocked? Are you going to, they're testing you. They will test you. Like, okay, is she going to freak out when I say this? Or,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Kids are smart.
so it's you brought up Netflix and Hulu and all that, and I remember having the conversation with what we watched the Dukes of Hazzard 8 o'clock, right? 8
Friday night.
It was a Friday. Yeah, it was Friday. And then after that, what came on after that? Do you remember?
It was 9 o'clock. That's my bedtime. I don't remember.
It was Dallas.
Dallas, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
We watched.
you know,
I didn't watch
we-
Dallas.
No,
My mom did.
Yes, and mine was the same way. So we watched the Dukes of Hazzard, then the commercial breaks, and then here comes Dallas. And I'm like, I want to watch this. And mom be like, turn the dang channel then. If you don't want to see something,
Yeah.
it amazes me. It amazes me how many people get so offended on something that they don't have to look at.
Yeah.
Whether it's social media, whether it's regular media, whether it's on all these streaming services.
Yeah.
They get so offended. Like, there's just certain things I don't want to look at. Guess what? doesn't offend me if I'm not watching it.
But would you agree that the kind of movies that is made, the kind of Halloween movies that is made nowadays is different from what it used to be in the day, which is
Oh yeah, the technology has changed.
I don't think the message is different. If you look at Friday the 13th and Halloween, there's some pretty crazy.
Yeah, but it's just the technology's gotten better, so the graphics are,
That's right.
it's a little more graphic now, more real. I mean, like I said, even with the decorations, going back to the decorations, I mean, now these people can create whole crime scenes in their yard. You're like, where people have actually called the police and said, hey, there's somebody dead in my neighbor's yard. That's how real it is. 20 years ago, 30, it didn't look, you couldn't do that.
Do you also agree that this season is also a very good covert season for, let's say, serial killer to do some good job in disguising and hiding out? I'm just trying to point out.
I appreciate the question, but I don't think a serial killer and lies going. You know what?
No, it's almost my season.
I just picked up this hitchhiker. I'll let her go now because it's July. I want to wait now. No.
Okay. No, just looking at the downside.
That's it. I like very good. No, I mean, has it ever happened? I'm sure. I'm sure people take advantage of that night.
Yeah, there's some bad actors.
And there's
Bad intentions.
I wish people would be more respectful of children on that night driving.
I was talking about
neighborhoods. I'm telling you, I see it here every year where cars are flying down the road. It's just like, okay, if you want to speed on the interstates, okay, great. Me personally, and I'm guilty as anybody else.
When David's driving, he's a different person. Like it.
But let me tell you this:
That's the vehicle he drives. I
understand. When I get into a neighborhood, you won't see me go over. Over.
I'm the same way. I feel like I'm disrespecting somebody's neighborhood, kids or no kids, by driving fast. I wouldn't want anybody to drive fast past my house. I'm not going to do it to somebody else.
I just asked this question for you, for the people who are watching that like to go 30, 35, or even faster in a residential area. How much time will you make up from point A, from when you turn into your neighborhood to where you, maybe 2 seconds?
Yeah. If that.
And is that worth it?
No.
Yeah.
So that's one of my biggest pet peeves with Halloween is just the people who are driving in these neighborhoods, just
because there's a lot of kids.
Yeah, and there's a lot of adults. There's a lot of pets.
A lot of movement.
This is a social event where everything comes out.
Slow down.
Be respectful.
Yeah. But the police patrols will be out and about, so that also helps. They drive around as well. Throughout the neighborhood. So
is there a period in the year when they also celebrate harvest? Is there a date for that? We know that Halloween is 31st, so what about harvest? How can we bring that celebration back in some way?
I don't think you bring it back. I think it's how you communicate it to your family and what you believe in.
The traditions. Some folks go pick apples and 3 hours away from here.
Yeah.
But why is it not as popular as Halloween?
It's not a marked holiday.
Yeah, when you mention harvest, okay, so you sell more pumpkins. How much? But you're going to do that with Halloween anyway.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, with Halloween, you're going to sell more pumpkins.
But that's what I'm saying. Halloween is not about pumpkins, but then it's now the period that people sell that and use it to decorate scary stuff. But it's always all about harvest. I'm sure that it started as a celebration of harvest, and then it kind of moved and morphed into this thing that we know today as Halloween. How can we bring that back? And which I think it's what actually have the social dynamics that you're talking about. Is there a way that we can bring it back, or we just move on and just have Halloween, even at the back of our mind, we're talking about harvest? I feel it's a misrepresentation of what it is, but
okay, so
what it is.
let's relate that to love. So February is the month of love, where we should really go out and think about our spouses and significant others, and talk about love. and give up Valentine's Day? You think Hallmark's going to give up that day?
Well, Valentine is technically about love.
Okay,
It's an expression.
but I don't think you should have it on one day. That's just devil's
It's
advocate.
something that you should have throughout the year.
So when you talk about moving this into harvesting, I think what you said is, you gave the option there, and I like the last one, which is accept it as it is, and then you can bring the harvesting mentality into your household. Because let me tell you what, Hershey's, M&M, Mars, and all these other big companies and their lobbyists, they'll never give that up. There's too much money involved.
Way too much money.
But that's the thing, though.
But I love where you're going.
Instead of controlling it at the house, how about we make it a national thing as well?
Mm-hmm.
And bring that back, because that's what it's always been about.
It is.
And maybe some people might want to do Halloween stuff. That's fine, but let's make it about harvest. It's nice. It's a better way of conceptualizing that period.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't agree with Christmas, but they celebrate it. They'll take that day off with pay. I promise you that.
All right, shuts down for those
So
parts.
yeah, I mean, you got to take the bad with the good and just be able to adapt. That's just my opinion. Again, this is not a hill I'm dying on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not really like, it just, maybe it's because I'm a part of young kids, so it's more like, I'm having more like a protective instinct this day.
understand.
So maybe
That's natural.
maybe that's why, but yeah.
But if I can give you one piece of advice,
Please.
embrace that.
Okay.
And don't shelter it. Don't ignore it, because you got to have those uncomfortable conversations with your kids and quite frankly with your significant others. It's so funny that when you talk about certain issues, regardless of what it is, do you agree with your wife on everything? Okay, so you're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, you got to. It's the same thing with these holidays.
Yeah.
Just you got to take.
Good way to put it.
You got to embrace it. You're not going to agree on 100% of everything.
And guess what? I'm teaching my boy how to, navigate that. And guess what I'm doing? I'm teaching him how to pray, so that when he feels scared of this monster, he can pray in the name of Jesus. So okay. It sounds very funny, but that's what he's been doing. So sometimes he sees things that it's scary to him. Is in the name of Jesus. So cute.
No, but I mean, you got it.
But I want him to. Not that I want him. I don't want him to be scared of it. But
We'll grow out of it.
yeah, I want him to have some kind of boldness that, regardless. But also, saying that and pleading the name of Jesus personally, at least based on my belief and faith, kind of helps to kind of, deter those whatever, thing that might be going on, or that, might have all that agenda, and it has no way of getting close to him.
But you got to prepare, the children that they're gonna come in contact, and probably some of their best friendships are going to be made with people who have different opinions.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
I love you guys as my brothers. There's no doubt about it. But there's things I'm going to disagree with you.
Of course.
You're going to disagree with me on.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we're going to stop talking to each other. I think when we have these dialogues with each other, there's been a few things that you've said, both of you guys, that I'm like, I didn't think of it like that.
Right.
Is it going to change me? Well, maybe a couple of those. I didn't see it like that. I appreciate it. So if I don't talk to you, I'll never know what your thoughts are about Halloween and Valentine's Day and and Christmas and how you're raising your kids. So I think it takes the community to work together. And I call it the grocery store analogy. When you go into a grocery store, you don't get one of everything off the shelf.
Yeah.
You go pick what works best for you and your family, and you leave the rest.
That's a good way to close it out.
Yeah, I know.
I like that.
know. But also, just to ask a question, it sounds like Halloween is your best holiday season to be. What is your best? Where I'm going with this is that what is your best holiday season in the year? I'm asking both of you though.
My favorite holiday,
Yeah.
Valentine's Day,
Why is that?
because I'm single.
Wow.
Obviously, Christmas is my favorite, but I had to have that joke in there. Like, everybody's out fighting.
What about
Mine is New Year's.
New Year.
Yeah, it's New Year.
Why is that?
It's the new year, new opportunities, new 365 days to,
Yeah.
to plan out, and set some goals.
Interesting. That's
Not resolutions, but goals.
no, I like that because I'm completely opposite of that. Like, I mean, for me, the New Year's is just another day.
Yeah, not the day, but the the mark of just mark of it.
But
Yeah,
look at fiscal budgets too. Some of them start in October,
Yes,
some of
yeah.
them start in July, right? So I think that you can set goals and look forward based on any day at any
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
That's just me. But yeah, I'm normally in bed by 10 o'clock on New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
That's just me. But
That's nice.
I think that it's New Year's is a good time for people to reflect.
yeah,
And I like that about what you're saying. It's like, okay, this is where I've been. This is where I want to go.
and it's a marking point.
It's a good timestamp. Absolutely. What about you?
That's a good. It's making me to think how, would the summer period also count as that? The break around the summer.
I think so too. I think it does.
Like usually when we finish our academic year around end of June, and from July to August it's like there's a free period. Then it's usually a fun time to travel. That's usually my best time in the year. Because I get to travel around that period. I feel like Christmas kind of adds its own pressure. But it's also a good time as well. That will probably be my second best time in the year.
Yeah, no, I think Christmas is relative to and subjective, all that. It depends on where you stand in your faith, but also we talked earlier about being in the both of us have been in the retail business, and that's
not a
quite honestly, it's the most stressful time of the year because it's so commercialized. There's pressure for you to get stuff on the shelf and market certain items in a different way, and then the whole
takes the joy out of it. I mean, you try not to let it, but when you've done it for a while,
Yeah. Sounds like this guy is the kind of guy that will have a lot of coupons, to kind of get lots of discounts,
No, I try not to buy anything whenever I have to. Try not to be in stores
absolutely, I could.
during that time of year.
Well, I think what's important for those that Halloween might be their best time of the year, we're not saying that you shouldn't celebrate it, but I think control how you celebrate it, make it fun, social, for your kids or your neighborhood, I think. So
Yeah, let us know. Let us know what you think in the comments. Yeah, there's again every episode we talk about. It's just three of us.
Yeah.
And we're neighbors, we're friends, and it's just three different perspectives. So we want to hear yours.
Absolutely.
all right.
Till next time.
Thanks for watching. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.